Good morning, everyone. This is Katie with NLFX Professional. I have Stu here with Denon DJ, and as you can see, our screen looks quite a bit different because we are going to be giving you a demo on Soundswitch, and Stu is going to be doing that with the Prime 2. And then we're going to change a screen so you can actually see what is going on and what he's doing with the Soundswitch. So, Stu, how are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic, staying super busy. We're down here in the Fort Lauderdale office where we kind of have a stage set up and a DJ showroom. So, pre-pandemic, when artists were in town in Miami, they'd come up here to Fort Lauderdale and we'd give them a rundown on the gear, show them all the stuff. There's a stage. And we're actually thinking about turning that stage into a little bit of a live streaming venue here pretty soon. So keep your eyes peeled for that.
That's awesome. So let's start with what is sound. I'm going to come over this way just a little bit so my face isn't like behind the logo. Let's talk about what Soundswitch is. What exactly is Soundswitch?
So Soundswitch is a lighting software that runs on your computer that integrates perfectly with all of our Denon DJ Prime series. And what it allows you to do is analyze your entire music library, and it creates a intelligent light show to control all your lights in perfect sync with the music. And it's not like sound activated. So a lot of people are familiar with sound activated lights, where it basically gets the transients and then pulsates along with whatever's going on. So Soundswitch, especially with the new version that just came out, will analyze the buildups, the breakdowns, the emotional spectrum of the song, and create an entire light routine based on the intensity and the emotion of the song, and it's perfectly in sync. And it actually is really easy to set up. So we took a lot of time just to set it up perfectly. So the user who's a little intimidated by lights can have an easier time getting into the setup.
Perfect. So it does work with all of the Denon gear. Is that correct?
Yep, it works with any standalone Denon unit. So the Prime 4, the Prime 2, the Prime Go, the 1850 mixer with the 5000s or the SE 6000 soon to come. It also will work with Serato. So if anybody out there is in Serato, and we'll show all this in the settings, and then also virtual DJ. So you can use it with any of those. You just have to go into the settings and change a few things, but it will work seamlessly with that.
You took that question right out of my mouth. That was my next question. So let's get into it. Why don't we go ahead and start and give us a little demo of how this works?
Cool. So I'm going to actually hop off of this camera right here and change my screen so everybody can see what's going on with Soundswitch. So let me share the screen here. All right, cool. So what you're seeing here is the main Soundswitch window when you're in the edit mode. So let me go to the main page. This is what you're going to see most of the time. And this is the two modes that Soundswitch can be in. Performer. And Performer, the screen, all it will have is just the Soundswitch logo because it is linking to whatever you have connected, whether it's a Prime 2, such as right here, or you're using a software like Serato or Virtual DJ. This will be the screen and everything's happening under the hood. But what we're actually going to go into is the edit window. So people out there that aren't familiar with lighting software, or maybe they're curious about just getting into it, they can kind of see what they're going to be getting into and what they're going to be dealing with. So we're going to click on edit here, and it's going to go to this screen. So let's take a look at this screen. You can see that the lights changed when we did that. Over here is all of our libraries. So we have the Engine Prime right here. We have iTunes, and then we have the crates that are inside of my Engine Prime. Right here, we have some effects such as intensity, color, chase, position. We have positions right here. And then below that, we have attribute cues. Now, those effects, positions, and attribute cues, as you're starting to get deeper into lighting and how everything works, you're going to find yourself over there customizing things if you would like. But if you're just getting into it, you really don't need to pay attention to those right off the bat. So the first thing that you would do when you get Soundswitch is you'd actually set up your lights. And that is done really easily. So right here at the very top, it says DMX. Now, this is the setup for the studio that we're in right now. And for those people that are just getting into lights, the way it works is a light will have a specific number of addresses, like a range, and then you can place that anywhere on your chain. And you basically use one DMX cable and daisy chain all your lights together, and then the software will know that this fixture is at this address and it uses up these slots. So if we take a look here at the very top, we have a slim par, and that's in 1 through 12, another slim par that is in 13 through 24, another slim par that's 25 through 36, so on and so forth. So if I'm just getting into it and this is completely blank, the way I'd set up my lights is down here in the lower left. We have all the different light manufacturers, and then we can pick one. Let's just go to, let's say, Chavez. So here it automatically just brought me over to all the different Chavez lights, and then I could scroll through and find, or I could search for whatever I was looking for. So let's say I was looking for, let's just say, a color radio right here, and I can just drag it and drop it in, and then move it wherever I see fit based on what that light is set to. So it's really quick and easy to get your light rig set up right off the bat. You just search for your fixtures, drop them in, and then just make sure the address matches what's programmed into the light. And that's it. You're all up and running. If I want to delete it, I just right click and hit delete fixture right here. And then I can save this venue. So if I have, let's say, multiple different locations that I'm going to be DJing in, or for a lot of mobile guys, let's say these mobile guys have 3 different tiered of packages. So one package, you're just bringing 2 fixtures. The second mid-tier package, you're bringing 4 fixtures and some moving heads. And then the Grand Poobah, the most expensive one, you're bringing full trussing, a whole bunch of fixtures on top, some stagnant lights on the side. You can save all those as different venues, so you just grab the lights you need, and then when you go into perform mode, we'll take a look at that after the edit mode, you can select the venue right there. So you can have a bunch of different venues and everything pre-set up, so you do it once and then it's saved inside of that.
I am going to mention, guys, if you have questions, write them in the comments. Stu is the guy to ask. Anything about Soundswitch, write them in the comments and I will make sure I get to them.
Awesome. And then also, if you have, let's say, a connected MIDI device. So one thing we have here in the studio is this guy right here, which is an APC Mini. You can go into the MIDI mode, which if you look right up here on the upper right, it's MIDI. And I can come through and set manual overrides to any sort of MIDI device. So if I wanted to activate the strobe and then adjust the strobe intensity, if I want to do a blackout or a wash or a full whiteout or change the colors manually, I can program that all to my MIDI device right here, and that's allowing me to override the performance that's currently going on inside of that. And you can see you can set up auto loops, static looks, and all of that sort, right? So let's take a look here in preferences while we're at it before we actually get into looking at the light grid. So this is where I'd set up what I'm using, whether I'm using it with Engine Prime right here, Engine OS, and I am using a Prime 2, so I have standalone selected right here. And then if I was using Serato DJ or Virtual DJ, that's where I'd select one of these guys right here. My library is basically what is the source I'm reading from. And then performance mode. So right now, since I have it selected as standalone, I have to tell it that, hey, the Prime 2 is a Deck 1 and 2 standalone. If I was using something like the Prime 4, I would select Decks 1 through 4. I can then have it so as the crossfaders are coming up, the lights are fading in based on the performance of each one of the decks. And I can also use the crossfader as well on that. And
So it
then
looks like
here's my
Thomas,
hardware section right here. So we can see that right now I have the Soundswitch USB dongle connected, which is a single universe. And that just looks like this,
and Thomas
right?
wants to
So
know if
that
you
is
need
a
a MIDI.
USB to DMX connection. And the way that the whole routing is working right now is I'm going out of my Prime 2 via Ethernet into the computer, because Soundswitch will run on your laptop or another computer. And then out of my computer, I have my USB to DMX. And then this DMX is connected to my string of lights inside the studio here. So that's how the setup works. It's really quick and easy. And now we're back in the actual main edit window that we started off in. So after I go through and I set up my universe, I would go through and analyze my tracks. So I go to my crates right here, which is basically reading off of my library, my engine library. And let's just say stage link right here. So you'll notice that these ones right here have the Soundswitch per icon next to it. That means they've already been analyzed. And if I click and load one up, you see that the lights all of a sudden are activated. And here I have the timeline of everything that's going on. So if we look at the bottom, we get a waveform overview of the track. And then we have the master track. So the master track is controlling all of the different lights. And then as we go up, these are the individual lights. And this is where the individual light overrides whatever's happening in the master track. It sounds like a lot, but you really don't have to dive too deep into this when you're just starting off. All you have to do is go in here, select the tracks you want to create a light performance for, select them, right click, hit auto script. And it's just warning me that I already have an auto script assigned to these, and I'm going to just override that. And I just hit auto, and you can see it's going through those lights, and I just get a flash when it's done with each one. This is my overall status at the top, and this is the individual one right here. And right there, it just went through and auto-analyzed about 10, 12 tracks that I just selected. So it's really quick. Actually, when you're doing this, the thing that takes the longest in this process is for actually to load the waveform, but the analyzation is only a couple seconds, and then it's complete. So now I went through and I reanalyzed those. It's going to ask if I want to save it. Hit yes. And now whenever I load up any of these, I can see the performance that it just created, and I can test it out. So if I just click anywhere on the timeline here and start playback, let's get rid of this video. And we can see right down here that it's pulsating in a red. And then we're going to have some movement going on right here of the moving heads. And then we're going to get a color change right here. And when it's in performance mode, and I'm actually connected to my Prime 2, my Prime 4, my Prime Go, when I fade these up, the lights are going to fade in. If I scratch everything, including the moving heads, they all keep sync with the position of that track. And it's all based on the auto script that happened inside of the computer that's just running behind the scenes. So you really don't have to do anything. You just load the track. It's going to reference the entire library here, pull that up, and then it's going to play this perfectly synced performance along with the song that you're playing. And it really takes a lot of the guesswork and a lot of the scary barrier of entry out of getting into lights, because it's fully automated. Now, one thing to note too is, let's say I have this playlist here called Modern Mix, and let's say hypothetically these songs right here are really mellow and chill, and I want to make sure that the light performance show is actually in that same energy level. So when I go to analyze these and hit auto script, I can go to advanced, and I can change a lot of the base fundamentals of how it's going to execute the auto script. So if I want to turn the intensity of the pulse down. Let's say I take it from 50%, I'm going to bring that down to 14% because these are more mellow songs. The bridge intensity, I'm going to bring that down as well. I don't want a lot of fast movement in the movement speed, and I don't want the colors to change a whole lot. And the effect speed, I want that pretty slow as well. So right there, just by dialing back these, when I then apply this and analyze those songs, it's going to analyze them with much more of a mellow performance. On the opposite side of that, if I have a lot of really intense songs that I want super huge buildups, a lot of strobes, a lot of flashy things going on, I can just go into the advanced tab again and then just turn all those dials up. And then when I analyze those tracks, they're going to be really intense and really a lot of energy going on, a lot of changing colors, a lot of strobes, a lot of movement in the moving heads. And just like that, those are done. And you can see this auto script is a lot less things going on than before. So as an example, if we analyze these songs with a lot of intensity and just turn everything up, bass intensity 50%, pulse intensity up, that up, that up. When we finish analyzing these and load one, we're going to see that there's a ton more movement, a lot more intensity of the strobe, a lot more color change. So we'll auto load one real quick here. And right there, we see that there's a lot more movement, a lot more changing of color. And down at the bottom here, we can see that there's a huge amount of color change going out through this performance when compared to the more mellow one. So once you're done with that, you've analyzed your songs accordingly. You could just analyze your entire library and just let it run. After you're done with that, we come up here to the File tab, go to Switch Modes. I want to save all my changes. And we go to Perform. We select the venue that we've already set up and pre-saved. And then from there, when I load a track onto the Prime 2, the Prime 4, the Prime Go, or whatever your choice of hardware is, and I play that track, it will automatically pull up the light routine and everything will be perfectly in sync. So let's go back to the Edit tab and just see if we have any questions that came up. I know that was a lot of information.
Yes. Can you hear me, Stu?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. We do have a few questions.
Sure.
The first one is going to be, you don't need a MIDI device, correct?
No, the MIDI device is just extra. That's just if you want to manually override. You don't need one at all. That's just when you get into the more advanced performance. If you wanted to override any of the auto script that's going on, and let's say at some point in the song you want to turn off all the lights, or if you want to have manual control, that's where you could set up a MIDI device, but you do not need a MIDI device at all if you don't want one.
Okay. The next question is the program that you're using, does that included when you purchase the dongle?
Yes. The dongle, this guy right here is $29.99. And then it comes with 3 months of Soundswitch for free. So your first 3 months are completely free. And then if you want to do a month to month, that is $7.99. But you can buy a lifetime license for $199 if you just want to just buy it once and forget about it. For $199, you can just do a lifetime, but you get 3 months free with the dongle purchase.
Awesome. Then one more question is, when you batch auto script, does that make each show the same?
Nope, because when you analyze your songs, it's looking at each individual song and it's going, first it analyzes it based on structure. So it goes, okay, here's my introduction, here's my first breakdown, here's my build up, here's my first drop, here's my next breakdown, here's my second drop. So it goes through each song and treats it as an individual file, analyzing first the structure and then how much energy is involved with each one of those sections. and then it creates the performance based on that, the structure and then the intensity of it. So every single light routine is different depending on the song that it's analyzing.
And then I actually had one question for you that popped up, and that is, does the screen incorporate into the Prime OS series? Like, do you need a separate computer to control it when you're using the Prime series?
Currently, it does. The software does run on a computer secondary. Um, you basically have a laptop assigned to it, and it does need to run on an external computer currently.
Currently is the keyword there.
Yes. So yeah, you do need a laptop or an iMac or just a secondary computer, and you just connect it via the Ethernet, and then the USB goes then to your lights out of the computer.
Perfect. Guys, I do want to tell you one more time, if you have questions, write them in the comments. I am monitoring them as we go. So Stu, go ahead and keep on going.
So I mean that's kind of the overall breakdown of Soundswitch, and we could go in and get extremely in depth with all the features, but instead of showing it, I'll just discuss it because it might be it, it can get really in depth. But on the surface level, it's the easiest software to get into to combine your lighting with your DJ performance. You just do the simple connection, go through and auto script your entire library, and then as I pull it up on the Prime, it's going to pull up the performance, and then everything's going to be perfectly in sync. However, if you're a mobile guy, and let's say you are in a venue or you are doing something where at a specific, let's say the first dance, and you want to point your moving heads to a specific location at a specific time of the song, you can do that with the different positions right here. So I just double clicked on flyover, but it would be, let's say DJ booth. Let's say they were going to make an entrance right next to you at the DJ booth. You can then take your fixture and then change the location of that fixture and then save that and then place that position anywhere you want in the song. So let's say at a certain moment of the song, they're going to be right in the middle of the floor, or they're going to be coming at a specific entrance in the venue. You can then change that position, angle before your gig, angle the spots or whatever you like at that position, save that location, and then just drop that into the track. So when you're playing that song and they're cued to come in, the lights will all focus right on that. You don't need to do any sort of manual overrides. You just need to set it up ahead of time. But it's as quick and easy as just going, okay, with this fixture, here's the location, and I just want to apply that to that DJ booth. And then I can just move that right onto the track right there. And now it's in there for that specific moment of the song. So it's an extremely easy software to get into, but you can get as in depth as you want and create a unique performance for each individual song if you like. And a lot of the top guys, they're going into each one of their songs and they're customizing it to make it specifically unique. Let's say if you have a song, there's a big song by Duke Dumont called Red Light, Green Light. And let's say you play that at every wedding because people have a dance they do to it. You could go in and trigger all the lights to go red when the vocal says red light, and then all the lights to go green when the vocal says green light. So if you wanted to create a custom performance like that, it's really actually easy and intuitive to get into, and it's just taking it to the next level, but you don't necessarily need to take it to the next level because you could just rely on the auto scripting too if you want. So it's as easy or in depth as you want to get with Soundswitch.
So Stu, the next question, I do have one question. Thomas wants to know if you can use your controller pads as MIDI pads.
If your controller has the ability to send out MIDI, that's specific on the unit. So your unit, whatever you're using, would have to have the ability to send out MIDI via either USB or MIDI. And then as long as the computer would recognize it as an incoming MIDI device, then you could program that inside a Soundswitch to use that. It would just really depend on your actual unit. So on the primes right now, we don't actually send out MIDI out of the pads. But if you had a controller that did have the capability to, let's say, bypass the performance mode and just turn them into a MIDI mode, then you could do that.
And then one step further is that custom, like your moving heads, how you got them to go in one place in the room. If you could hook it up MIDI wise, would you be able to hit that MIDI button and have all of your moving heads go right to where you program them to?
Yeah, definitely. So when you're in the MIDI setup, let's just go into DMX. We got MIDI. So when you're in here, you could set that as either a static loop, or I'm sorry, static look, or probably performance mode. But you could basically just have the MIDI device trigger that specific location. So you'd go into the venue ahead of time and move all of your lights where you want them, save that location, and then just assign a button to activate that location, which would override the auto script.
Perfect. And then it looks like Jeff here has a question too. He says, is it possible to do static scenes without music?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, you would just probably connect an external MIDI device and then just trigger the static scene, and then that will override anything. Even if there's not music playing, you can activate a static look just to set the lighting in the room.
Perfect.
And you could have that button as basically it'd be a toggle. So you'd go on and it would stay on, and then click it again and it would turn it off.
Awesome. And then Thomas says he has the MCX 8000. About the MIDI, he wants to know if he can use the buttons on his MCX 8000 as a MIDI.
Let me look into that. If we can get Thomas's contact information, I'll reach out to him directly, and then I'll look into it and then get him an answer.
Perfect. Guys, if you have any more questions, we have Stu here for a few more minutes, so fire away. Is there anything else you want to cover, Stu, in the meantime?
That's about it. I mean, the thing with Soundswitch is the development team is extremely active. So let's say you have, I mean, every single major manufacturer light is in there, but let's say you got a light that's, brand new to the market. It's, you picked it up somewhere for super cheap and it's an off brand or whatnot, and there's not a profile for it. You can reach out to the Soundswitch team and send them over some information, and they're really active then creating a profile and then being able to update the profile list on there so your light is in there. They're a really passionate team, and they're really active with taking care of customer requests.
Jeff would like to know, what is the best MIDI controller for the software? Do you have a preference, Stu?
Yeah, I mean, I've always had an awesome time with the APC Mini right here, just because you have a combination of a ton of buttons, but then you also have sliders right here, and you can allow those, allocate those sliders to, let's say, strobe intensity, to fade in and fade out of your static looks. You can set them to trigger different scripts that you've set up. So this one's really good, because it's super tiny and it can slide into any backpack, and it just has a ton of different controls on it. We also have used as well taking off the light, the MPD 26, which is this guy right here. And that's good as well, but it's also a little bit bigger, and it's not quite as portable, but it has just as many knobs and sliders, but not as many buttons as the APC Mini. So I'd prefer the APC Mini over all of them, just for the portability.
And then Thomas would like to know, what What does it do when playing songs that haven't been already read and programmed by the software? It auto does it, right?
Good question. Yeah, it does auto. It basically has a bunch of auto loops in there. So it will really quickly look at the overview of the song and just apply auto loops based on the intensity, but it won't be as an extravagant show as the one you've analyzed based on the structure and the intensity, but it will look at the overall waveform and add auto scripts to it. So it's still in sync. It's just not as intricate, but it's still an incredible performance.
Thomas, one more here. iPad as a MIDI device.
As long as as long as you could use something, let's say a program called like Touch OSC, which is basically a program where you have touch sliders or buttons on the screen, and you can create your own custom MIDI layout. A lot of guys in audio use Touch OSC, and then that just sends out MIDI over USB, and then you can plug it in the computer and basically have your iPad or even your iPhone, because there's a little mini version of Touch OSC, and you could create it with as many buttons as you need to assign to the performance elements that you want to execute.
Perfect. So, Stu, I think that's it for questions. Do you have any final thoughts on Soundswitch?
Just we're really trying to make this a software that is taking away all the barriers of entry to get into lighting. I know that when I first got into lighting, I heard the word DMX and I thought about the rapper. And then people started talking about addresses and light fixtures and assigning this to that. And it was really overwhelming and confusing. So if you're looking for something to really take down the barriers of entry into lighting, something that's made really easy for you to set up your lights, check out Soundswitch, and also check out Soundswitch website and YouTube. There's a ton of instructional videos getting down to the nitty gritty of how to set everything up. In case you didn't catch it while we were going over everything, it's a lot of information, kind of a crash course, but check out all the social medias, Soundswitch as well. And then also, if you have any questions, reach out either directly or on the forums, and we'll do everything we can to get everybody set up and going.
Perfect. Well, thank you for joining me today, Stu. I really enjoyed this. Guys, if you have any other questions, write them in the comments. I will monitor them as we go. And we will see you again on Monday.
Thank you very much. And if you could shoot over those questions to me, then I can make sure everybody gets the response they need.
Absolutely. Sure can.
Cool. Thanks a lot. It was fun.
See you guys later.